Well, welcome back to the Unapologetic Podcast. I'm your solo host, Brandt Merritt. Today, Jonathan Woodyard is still out of the country, or maybe flying back today. I can't remember if he's coming back from Asia today or not. But today is a education-focused podcast. I've got two pretty amazing faculty guests with me, and going to give them a chance to introduce themselves, Julie and Kevin. But Julie, if you'd like to start, and we're excited to talk about all things education today.
Great. I'm Julie Bryant, and I was an alum here. I attended college here 93 to 97 and got a teaching position after that. I went to the Lake of the Ozarks and taught school for 5 years, and God incredibly brought me back here to my alma mater. And I've been here since 2002 teaching in the education division. I have mostly been undergraduate elementary education, but recently I have taught some grad classes as well as doing courses where I get to teach all of our education students, those that are also in secondary and 9 to 12. So I've been here since 2002, absolutely love being here and serving our students and advancing the mission here.
So my name is Kevin Patterson, and I'm also an alum, 83 to 87. Whenever
that's older, isn't it?
Okay. Like 10 years older. When I came in 83, we started two programs here at SB, and I think both were God's will for me. And football was one of the programs. I played on the first football team here and played 4 years of football. And so I'm an alum of the university and of the football program. I was a math education major with computer education as well. And that's what I taught, math and computer. I went from here, and I met my wife here as well, and she's an alum. She graduated in 86, and she was an early childhood and elementary education major here as well. And went to Ozark, Missouri, just south of Springfield. Still live at Ozark, drive back and forth whenever I'm in Bolivar. And I was a math and computer teacher and coached football and wrestling for 9 years. And then I got into administration and was an assistant principal, a principal, an assistant, a superintendent, and then I retired as a superintendent all at Ozark. So I worked 31 years at Ozark, still live there, have grandkids there. I couldn't pull my wife out of there with a backhoe. So we're ingrained in the community. Yeah. But I retired because a job came open here at SBU in 2018. I'd already signed my contract, a 3-year contract at Ozark. And in January, this job came open, and they offered it to me, and I resigned the day after I signed my contract.
I didn't know that's how that happened. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I told my wife, Sarah, who I said, whenever we first got married, I said, someday I would love to go back to SBU because I love this place. It's meant so much to me, spiritually and professionally in my career. And so it was a great opportunity for me to come back and try to figure out the higher education life, and I enjoy it. And so I came in 2018. I just finished my 7th year here, and I started as the graduate program and graduate education chair. And I retired, and then I did 5 years as a division for, we combined both undergraduate and graduate. And now Julie is the division head, and I'm going to be director of graduate education starting next year. And Julie will be the division head for there. And Julie is wonderful and great to work with. And she cares about people. And so it's a great place to be. Yeah. It's a good place to serve God. And for me, we need Christian public and private school educators, and that's what we're preparing. And our mission has been really servant leadership has been our mission since I was here as a student, and Christ-like servant leadership that's in our mission is something that really appeals to me. Yeah. And I think we need leaders, and we're all going to be leaders one way or the other, but we want to be Christian leaders. Yeah. And that's what we hope to encourage people to be.
Yeah. Well, and you both are sort of a testimony to what is not uncommon on campus of people who have come back and given back. I mean, just the most recent example being Clint Witterson is joining the communication area, retired out of administration. Same way, there's been multiple people that have.
I think he was an education major too, wasn't he?
I think so.
Yeah, taking kind of similar paths. And so I think that speaks well to the university and the culture and the mission of what we're trying to do of people that want to invest and give back. You touched on needing public and private teachers who have a faith foundation. So we've got two girls in 6th grade and 4th grade, both in the Bolivar School District. But when we moved here 2 years ago, we were looking at Polk County Christian, looking at homeschool options, looking at Bolivar School District. And one of the things that just absolutely made us so comfortable was more than half of anyone we talked to at the Bolivar District, from administration down to classroom, are SBU grads, and have that faith foundation. So there's just a high level of comfort with what's happening in the public school system here. And so could you maybe talk more about that, either both of you, on what that means?
Southwest Missouri is a great place to raise kids.
Yeah.
I would say across the region, and we have a lot of SBU graduates, coaches, teachers that have been great and wonderful leaders for kids. But it's a good place to raise kids because most of your public schools are led by Christian superintendents in Southwest Missouri. Not all, but most. And so it's an alternative that can work. But that doesn't mean that if you want to choose a private school because that's what's best, or homeschool,
right,
that's not okay, because you need to choose what's best for your child. But I think when you're looking at Southwest Missouri, and especially graduates from SBU, that we really, they've been salt and light, and we've sent those students out. I've seen what they've done, and they changed the area. When I was superintendent, we had a devotional at the beginning of the year for staff. It wasn't required for faculty and staff. I had 800 employees. I would have 600 show up at our devotional each year. And so it's not like, but we need a Christian leader who can say it's okay to come and worship God at school when you're teachers. You need to know the laws as you're working through the classroom. But one of the things that I encourage in our graduate program is knowing the laws as maybe a building leader. So you have students wanting to start a Bible study in your school, and you're in a public school. Is that okay? Well, yeah, it's okay to do, as long as it's not impeding instruction and you can supervise those students. And so I had a practice that any students that wanted to do that, I said, come here, and I would have them write out that they were wanting to do this and invite all the teachers to it. So that made it illegal. I made it student-led in a legal situation, and I would have people come and question me about it, and I would show them that, and we were done with the conversation, because we need Christians leading that. Now, we need Christians leading our private schools. We have students that go to international and teach, and we need Christians leading those. So, Julie, you want to add to that?
I've been so blessed to have my kids go to school in the Bolivar school system. Like you said, many of our students are out there as their teachers, but I always prayed for my kids' teachers to love the Lord and love my kid. That was always the prayer as I sent them out. And honestly, almost every year that was the case. And I finally figured out that if we didn't get that, that is because that teacher needed my family to be the light to them. Yeah. And I'm telling you, like yesterday was a prime example. My daughter is in high school at Bolivar High School, and she had me read a message that one of her teachers posted. And I won't name drop because there's so many great ones out there, but he basically shared the gospel in such a beautiful way and encouraged his students to go out and make a difference out there in the world and do something with their lives. And he used verses without giving references. And I was just so proud and invited them to always come back. The door is always open. That is just one of many examples of the quality and the heart of the teachers that are in our community, that are just an example of the graduates that we're sending out. Yeah. And it's an honor to get to just be a small part of their journey along the way.
Absolutely. Well, Kevin, you mentioned there are requirements of teachers from certification standpoint. There's requirements of what can happen in and out of the classroom. But if you take our approach and how you prepare teachers, both of you, what are the things that are woven into our curriculum, or the way that you mentor future teachers that would be unique from an SBU perspective and from a Christian perspective?
Well, to begin with, I will just say SBU stands apart in preparing students. Like when we were talking beforehand, you're like, well, the undergraduate's pretty much standard. That's true that you can get
I tried to walk
teaching.
that back because I was trying not to.
Yeah, you can get a teaching degree from anywhere. That is true, but there are distinctives about our program that make it appealing, and I feel like better equips students to go out and be the salt and light in the public school setting. Whereas, like KP has already alluded to, there's sometimes people, and sometimes Christians feel like their hands are tied and they don't get to be Jesus to their students. That's completely false. And so we show them that there are safeguards in place, but we can, those students need us to be, and our students to be, his hands and feet extended, the opportunity to love on kids in the public school classrooms and beyond. And some of the distinctives are, we get to be examples to our students in our own classrooms.
Yeah, that's no small thing.
Yeah, it's huge that we can start our class with a time of prayer, and we can share prayer requests with one another. We also I integrate a scripture passage into every one of my lectures. So I call it the biblical basis. So it's kind of that nugget of truth that the entire lesson for the rest of the class period is built around. So that kind of establishes a foundation for us. I tie it back at the very end to that verse, because I want them to not only start with it, but to end with it too, and to have a little moment of personal reflection about how that can then apply to them in their future classrooms. So that right there is a distinctive. But we also have a specific class that kind of sets us apart that I think KP said he wanted to talk about a little bit.
Either one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Every graduate from SBU has spiritual formations that they're required, which is wonderful. Old Testament, New Testament, spiritual formations. What we've asked and what we've incorporated into ours, we call it spiritual issues in the classroom.
Okay.
So every education graduate will take spiritual issues in the classroom, and we go through, and that's co-taught with a person from Redford, our theological department. That's co-taught with one of those teachers and with one of our education teachers, Dr. Lentz. And that course is designed to help you foundationally know who you are as a Christian. And so when I'm dealing with very difficult issues that our students are dealing with once they leave, they may, homosexuality, transgender, different things that they've got to figure out. Who am I when I go home and I've loved this student and I've cared about them? Am I foundationally, who am I as a Christian? So we get into Baptist catechisms in the defense of who we are, but then we get into how are you going to handle this issue when you're in a classroom? How do you handle it biblically? How do we, what does the Bible say to do? What can you legally do? And should you quit? And those are decisions that we're trying to give our students and empower our students, so that when they go, they don't just say, "This is not for me." But I've been prepared. So, and that is unique to us. I don't know of any other program that really has a class that is identified for who am I as a Christian. And there may be a student that's maybe not a Christian, or maybe they're not in their faith where they need to be. Yeah. We help those students come along with that as well. So about 3 years ago, we started requiring that for every graduate that comes through our undergraduate program. Now, in our graduate programs, we have a biblical integration in every class. And so one example is we use Psalms 15 is some of our leadership principles. And so I have usually a Psalms 15 assignment that they're writing up, because most of our courses are online. Yeah. And so there's biblical integration really from their freshman year until they get their doctorate. And it's important that if we're going to be a university that supports Christ, that we are actually a university that supports Christ. Right. Yeah. And so I think that's something that I know it's important to us. Our mission as the university is important to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you touched on it. We don't have all Christian students that come, to SBU. We have a range. And so when you're, how do students receive that? I mean, and maybe what are some examples of students that you've seen actually lights go on like, oh, okay, this is how I can integrate this in the classroom, or I hadn't thought of it this way before. For the impact of students, maybe what are some of the ways you've seen that benefit them?
Well, personally, conversations with Dr. Lentz and Dr. Q, just getting to talk to them about the questions that the students ask, they don't hold back. They're asking the tough questions. And to have those two gentlemen in the room, one bringing a Christian worldview and biblical perspective, and one building on that and being able to say, now this is what it looks like within a school setting, that's so valuable. I know in talking to Dr. Lentz, there have been students that have come here and they've said that they are atheist. We've had students that just are not sure, or they come on the coattails of their parents and they haven't really dug in and solidified who they are in Christ yet. But one beautiful example for me, I had a football player in my Foundations of Education class. And I don't even know what the prompt was, but I specifically said something about him being a Christian, and he answered, "Not yet." And I grabbed a hold of the word "yet," and I was like, oh, I'm so glad you said that, because that means that you are opening a window of opportunity for yourself, for your heart to receive something while you're here. And we had an event, an SMSTA event that we hosted on campus, and he came to that event, and I hadn't seen him for a while. It was a year later or longer, and I saw him, and he said that he started doing a podcast much like this, and that he was interviewing people to learn more about their faith. And I was like, what? Like, you are doing this? And he said, yes, Dr. B, I got saved. And I was like, oh, and of course the waterworks, I cried. But that's what it's all about right there. I mean, that we have such an opportunity. And sometimes we even forget that the mission field is right here in our own classrooms. Right. Yeah. But it's a great opportunity to get to pour into kids and to invest in them and show them Christ through education.
So do you want to know what programs we offer in undergraduate? And
I was going to, we don't, we could tick them all off or some of the distinctives with the two. And even if there's any ways that maybe we've adapted or added things recently, because I know that we've looked at how we can, for instance, the Doctor of Education going fully online. So anything like that, maybe that you wanted to go through as well.
Well, at undergraduate, I'll let Julie talk toward that, but I'm going to talk about one of the programs that we've added in the last 3 or 4 years, and that's global education. Dr. Benny Fong works with our graduate students, and specifically our doctoral students. But he was an international schools principal in, I believe, in Hong Kong and then in San Francisco. He ran international schools, and so he has been a very valuable asset for us. And we have International Christian Ministries. I don't know what we call it now, but that's what we called it. We knew we had that degree. So we took our education degree and we added that as kind of like a minor. And so we prepare students to teach internationally or within the country in Christian environments. And then they can student teach overseas, but still get certified in the state of Missouri, which a lot of places will let you student teach overseas, but their state department doesn't work well with that. I met with our first meeting with our state department was a lady who had been a missionary's kid. And she knew about international schools and gave us what we needed to do to make sure students were certified. And so students can student teach overseas. We prepare them for that. It's not we just send them overseas. They actually have the coursework to prepare to teach overseas, and then they can decide. We had a young lady whose student taught in Istanbul, and she now teaches in Spain. And I was at an International Christian Schools Conference in Spain 2 weeks ago. Her principal was there and was telling me how awesome she was, so
really small world.
Yeah,
that talks about what we're doing at SBU in what the global education program. Now, we don't have a lot of students in that program. We just started a few years ago, but it's something that I think we need to look at our mission. And in that global part of the mission, we felt like we were lacking, and so we thought, let's go for it. And so that's what we do. And so we were there. I've been to 2 or 3 conferences across the world now. To represent SVU because we want to have good, safe places to send students to student teach.
Right.
And the stories from those places are incredible, but we want our students to be part of those stories.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's kind of unique.
and there's a need for those educators around the world to have more training and more education too. I mean, ACSI has got a huge domestic presence, but it's also that's why it's called Schools International.
Right.
Got them all over the place. And you and Benny have both been great representatives to go and sort of.
Well, we're lucky to have the staff. We're lucky to have the faculty we do who they're not scared to try things.
Yeah.
And so Benny's just a great part of our faculty, and I'm a very small part of that. But the international part of what we're doing, I think, is important. I think the local part of what we're doing is important. I think Christ is important in what we do, and we need to share Christ. We need to feel like we're in a mission field wherever we go. Because I think we're called to do that. That's, to go ye therefore into all the world. Yeah. And I think that's what we're supposed to do. And I would say if you were to give a vision of the Bible, it would be to glorify God. And if you were to give a mission of the Bible, it would be go ye therefore into all the world. And that's what we're trying to do as an education department. So that's the undergraduate. That's my only undergraduate part. I'll let you lead.
And also we're trying to, at the end of the journey, as they are writing for certification with Mrs. Kreitz, our certification officer, we're also encouraging them to go ahead and do the application to be ACSI certified.
Yeah, they have everything they need to have 2 certifications, Missouri and ACSI certified.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
And I think that's also unique about our program as well.
What other, either at the undergraduate or graduate level, program distinctives or highlights or even outcomes? I mean, I know if there's anyone you want to brag, Keaton would be a great example, a new teacher of the year he was at. So we have teachers getting recognized. So anything else on that?
Principals getting recognized. We have a principal at Stratford who was one of our alumni, who was the state elementary principal of the year in Stratford. I can't think of her name right now, but a wonderful lady. And does a good job, and she's one of our alumni. So
we've had just this year a very difficult to obtain scholarship that is given by MSTA was given to one of our grads. A Newcomer of the Year award chosen by the state was one of our grads. And then the first second year teacher did go to Keaton, one of our grads too. So that's exciting. And that's not even rare. That is almost the norm. We have incredible students that leave us and go out there and make a difference in their schools.
My favorite Keaton anecdote, and this is for anyone that's a teacher graduate, but at his graduation, his whole class that he'd been student teaching with was there at the ceremony, and the high-pitched screams you get from a classroom full of elementary school kids when he walked across the stage.
Yeah, definitely. He definitely had earned fanhood, right?
Absolutely. Judy, why don't you tell the programs that we offer just in general, if you want to.
So we have elementary education, and within elementary education, we encourage them to do a focus area. In fact, all of our programs, we want them to choose an area that they kind of specialize in, and that is so that at the end of the journey, they can take their certification test in elementary education, but they can also take it in their second area, and that gets them certified in 2 different areas and just opens their horizons for being able to be employable, for one, but also gives them an area of expertise that maybe they could be a curriculum or coach or something within their team, or a leader within their team based on that content expertise. So we do elementary education. We have early childhood education as a focus, or they can choose any of the content areas of middle school to go with elementary, as well as global education for elementary. We also have middle school where they can choose 2 content areas. So that kind of opens the avenue for them to do like science and math, or English and math, or whichever 2 that they choose. They can also do global education with middle school focus. And then we also have our secondary programs, 9 to 12, which are the content areas, and then K to 12, which is art, music, and PE.
Yeah. So everything, basically.
Yeah, all of it.
Yeah,
we do it all.
offer quite a few different things.
And then at the master's level, we have multiple concentrations.
Yeah,
we have
6 masters that we offer. They can get. And let me say this before we get to the masters. We have a 4+1 programs,
right?
And so they can the first is literacy, a master's in literacy, which they can get a special reading certification and extra certification on top of the 2 certifications that we just talked about, and they would receive their master's 1 year then after they leave SBU. So they're basically almost finished with their master's when they leave. And in education, that's a race. Salary schedules are based on bachelor's plus and then up to a master's. And so they start really on step 2, 3. If you were to think about them going across. And so they're starting just a little bit higher, a little bit stronger with the opportunities. And then we have educational administration. If they have enough electives and they want to go that direction, they can go a 4+1 in one of those two programs. But we have 6 masters. 2 of those have certifications. One of them I just mentioned, which is the literacy masters, and the other one I also mentioned, which is educational administration, which is a K-12 building principal certification that they get. Then they have curriculum and instruction, teacher leadership, instructional technology, leadership, and athletic director. Are different directions that students can go for masters. And then we have a specialist, which is kind of unique to education, the specialist degree. Superintendents are required to have a minimum of a specialist and have been a principal for 3 years. And we have 2 levels of that. One of them is called leveling. So if a student got a master's in curriculum and instruction, well, they don't have to get a second master's and then a specialist. They can get a specialist and take the extra principal classes, and then and get both principal and superintendent certification. Or they can, if they already have their building principal certification, they can just get their specialist and get superintendent certification. And then we have 4 tracks of the doctorate program. If they already have a specialist, they can go to track 1, which is a 30-hour degree. If they don't have their specialist, it depends on their certification. If they want to be principal certified or superintendent certified because they already have principal, that's track 2. If they don't have any certifications but they want the principals, then that's track 3. They have principal and superintendent certification. And then if they don't want a certification and they just want to enhance their teaching or possibly teach in college someday, we have a curriculum and instruction focused track as well. Many of our international students are kind of work towards that track 4. Yeah. We have students from Taiwan, students from Belize. We have students from Africa. We have students really from all over within our graduate programs as well, and they're happy. A lot of St. Louis students. Of course, we have a lot of students from Southwest Missouri as well. And I don't care where they are; they're all serving kids the same age. Yeah. And I felt called when I was a sophomore here at SBU to serve kids, and I can tell you the chapel service that call happened. That I felt called to serve kids, and I'm still serving kids, and so are those administrators. Still serving kids, and so we want to prepare them to be able to serve kids the best they can, and we want to prepare them to serve kids and show Christ in what they're doing. That's really important to us.
So bottom line, you know your students really well because you got to know all the different certifications they do or don't have.
That's correct.
What their goals are.
I do a lot of advising, and usually those are virtual meetings that I have 2, 3, 4 a day with people who are interested or with people who are working through certification that need meetings and stuff like that. So. Good people that are very, very busy in our graduate programs because they're full-time teachers, they're coaches, they're principals sometimes. And so we try to make sure we understand that. And I was that guy
Yeah.
With three boys who are all teachers, by the way, married teachers. That's all we do at my house is talk about teaching. But I just don't think there's a better life than serving kids.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I was going to end on this question, and it kind of transitions right into it. I mean, my wife was a teacher, but she's in the middle of right now trying to get her certification re-upped, and it's an incredibly red tape heavy, frustrating process.
Sure.
And the teaching profession in general is hard. Even if you've got the full passion and full commitment to the mission, it's a difficult profession. So as you, I guess, either an encouragement to those who are considering teaching or the kind of encouragement you give to your students who are going into teaching, I mean, how do you encourage them to endure? How do you encourage them to really buy in and stick with it? Because I think, we all on this table would agree that teachers are incredibly important. The mission is needed. The country, the region, our homes need good, qualified teachers who are going to stick with it. But it's a hard profession sometimes. So what's the encouragement maybe you would give in that context?
Well, I tell my students that besides being a mom or a dad, teaching will be the hardest thing that they'll do that they love. And it is hard. I tell them that too. Like when they think that junior block classes, oh my goodness, it's so hard. I'm like, you guys, this is the easy part. And it truly is. Out there it's hard, and it's getting harder every year. And I think that it will be until Jesus comes. But he is allowing us to lean on him during those times. And I tell the students that, like, you don't have to do this by yourself, that we are empowered by the Holy Spirit, and he is everything that we need and more. Exceedingly abundantly more.
Yes.
And he sustains us. And when it gets hard, and it will, that's an opportunity all the more to trust and to have that faith. I think that it's really, really important to surround yourself with a community of people to encourage you, because it is hard. Like, you need to go home at the end of the day and have someone that you can talk to. When I was student teaching, we had a car of 5 of us, and on the way home every day, we would just about the day, and yes, until it was just out of our system, and you feel better. Like, you just have that release of the emotions and tension from the day. But it's so great because every day is a brand new day, a new slate, a new opportunity. And what is incredible about education is you get first days of school every year. You get a new batch of students who need you. They need you to be that salt. They need you to be that light, to be the hands and feet of Jesus in that classroom. There are kids who they will never see a Bible. They will never read a Bible, but you get to be that to them. You get to be living out every day the word of the Lord that is inside of your heart. You get to be that to those kids, and they desperately need you in that classroom. That's what I tell them. I mean, it is definitely a calling. It is not, hey, I think I just want to be a teacher, because it's way too hard for that.
Yeah.
But to know that you are called, he equips the called, and we get a small part in that journey. And it's incredibly humbling that we get to be a little bit of that preparation for what God has called them to do, and to be salt and light, to be difference makers out in the schools where they really are needed. We need Christians to rise up more than ever. We need each other out in the schools to encourage each other in the journey and in the walk, because it is tough, but with each other and by God's grace, right? We can do it.
Absolutely. Since the fall of man, nothing's been easy.
Right.
Yeah. Amen.
And when you're called, whether you're called to be a pastor, whether you're called to be whatever, it's not going to always be easy, but it is going to be satisfying if you follow your calling. And we're given the Holy Spirit to help us, to direct us, to lead us. And I would not go back and re-choose something else.
Me neither.
And I really have loved, and I have 3 boys who have all chosen to be teachers, and they married teachers. And I said a while ago, that's, jokingly, that's all, and it is all we talk about. But you know what? It's okay.
Yeah.
because I love my life. And I've done it now for 38 years in serving kids in education. And there were days I would take back, like I did a snow day and nobody liked what I did, or I went to school. There are days I might take back, but there's not a point I would go back and say, I wish I'd have done something else,
Right.
because it's a calling. And I want to encourage students that it's not going to be easy,
Right.
but nothing is really easy.
Right.
And if you're following Christ and you're in God and you trust that the Holy Spirit is going to empower you and help you work through it, then you don't have there's nothing stronger by your side. That doesn't mean you won't make a mistake or do the wrong thing, but you have these people uniquely have somebody to go to, where somebody else, whatever profession they chose, they don't. And so what they choose is folly. In the Bible talks a lot about that. And so we want to give people that, like I said, salt and light choice in what they're doing. To me, that's how I would encourage a student. But I wouldn't tell them every day is going to be great.
No.
I mean, it's like Cracker Jacks
Well,
every
that's
day.
great. I think that's great wisdom to be able to acknowledge, like, there's going to be days that are just, you want to take back a day, but the totality of it, the mission, the calling is, that's awesome. Great wisdom.
I once apologized for not calling school on KY3 because I made a mistake. And so I said, I think I messed up this morning. And, but I felt like God is with me, and it's okay to say, I think I messed up on that one.
Yeah.
So.
Amen. Well, thank you guys for joining me on this one. I'd love to maybe do another one in the future where we talk about how the classroom's changing. It wasn't even on my mind until we started talking about other things in the classroom being so different with AI, new tools, changes.
Right.
So maybe it's a part 2 at some point down the road. Because I know we talk about that in the classroom.
Thanks for letting us do this. I enjoyed this.
So much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Well, we'll the next time we do this might be in Dallas. So we're going to do a higher education panel with some different leaders of some Baptist universities around the country, talking about challenges facing higher education beyond just challenges facing education as an industry. But if we have an episode before that, we'll see you on that one. If not, we'll see you in Dallas.
Thank you.